Hello, everybody. You're listening to Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Shelby Olschlager. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs make a difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to give you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, our special guest is Prosper Taruvinga. You might have to correct me on that. I didn't ask, but thank you so much, Prosper, for joining us. So please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, Shelby, and I'm pleased you actually got my name right. So fantastic. Yeah, so like you said, my name is Prosper Taruvinga, and I lead a team of digital marketing experts here in Melbourne, where we help our clients, especially small to medium businesses, generate hundreds of qualified leads, like clockwork, so they never have to rely on cold calling, emailing, just to beg clients to hire them.
Perfect. So tell us a little bit of backstory of your business. How did you get started in this field and grow it to where it is today?
Fantastic. So, I think you would have heard the statement from Steve Jobs that says you cannot connect the dots looking forward, but you could always connect the dots looking backwards. So much has happened within the business. I'm originally from Zimbabwe, and I came to Australia around about 10 years ago. And when I arrived in Australia, I knew no one. So I pretty much started working, within the corporate sector around here just to get my feet. And then I noticed, I think you would have this in the States, what's called the Yellow Pages. Yes, so we had the book, The Yellow Pages, and the time I arrived, which was 10 years ago, they were trying to move people from the Yellow Pages to the online space. And then I noticed they were only reaching out to people that had bigger ads and, bigger businesses. So that left the small to medium business, unattended to. So I then decided, hey, who is looking out for these people that seemingly are the people that are actually employing the most people within, I don't know if it's the same in America, but in Australia, small to medium businesses employ the most people in the economy. So I just set out to recuperate and help them, put their word out there in the internet. And we've been growing ever since.
Wow. So did you overcome any sort of surprising obstacles or struggles while trying to, you have this idea that you want to help these people? Was there anything that you had to overcome to start gaining those clients and getting traction?
Fantastic. Have you ever tried to help somebody who doesn't know why they need help? Sometimes they actually would fight you. Or if you're maybe like a lifesaver and you're trying to help somebody who's drowning, 9 times out of 10, they'll be actually pulling you down if you're not a strong swimmer yourself. So half of these people didn't quite realize what the internet was there for. They actually thought the internet is where their customers would go to and leave bad reviews, and they didn't want none of that. So that is some of the stuff that we would come across when we're trying to introduce people to online methodologies like search engine optimization or social media. They would think, no, this is not for me. We've always been calling people, and our clients know us, and we work with word of mouth. So those are the kind of things, the backlash that the market was giving us, especially when we were getting started.
So for other people that are listening that resonate with this type of business, what have been some of the things that you help your clients with? And has there been like a main thing that you notice across the field that maybe people aren't implementing that they really should be?
Fantastic. A lot of people haven't actually defined who their target audience is, because not everyone is going to be your customer. Some people are maybe just, window shopping, and they might not convert right there and then. And most of the time we're spending far too much money cold calling or emailing, and even wasting thousands on ad spend on people that are not quite our customers. So a lot of small to medium businesses, since they haven't identified their target audience, that also means the message they're putting out there is mismatched. And that actually then creates a lot of noise that we're seeing in the marketplace right now, where people don't quite realize, who are these companies speaking to, and why should I care as a customer, which creates that mismatch. So yeah, a lot of people haven't really figured that part out.
I could see that being so important. If you don't really know your target audience, and you don't actually have that clear understanding of even how to like word your messaging and how to actually come across to them, because you're not clear on that, the main goal, it's like the main thing that you're chasing. So for you and your business, what has been working for you to start, getting your clients, and how can they actually find you?
Great. So I put out a podcast almost every single day. All right. I've noticed you're on season 4. I'm also doing season 4 of my podcast. I don't know how many episodes you have in your seasons.
I actually don't. This is my first season, so I'm not even sure.
Absolutely.
A
Okay,
lot,
great
though.
stuff. Right. So when we are speaking to our clients and when we're speaking to our potential clients, there are certain trigger words and trigger questions that they might have, because when people approach you, they only understand their problem. They don't understand the solutions that are available for them. So what I basically do is I listen to those problems and then I answer them in the form of a podcast, which I put out every single day, on my website, and it's called the Online Prosperity Experience. So in this podcast, I'm answering questions that small to medium businesses usually think are stupid questions. Like, how do I show up on social media? How do I keep up with the trends and all of those things? And when I answer those questions, I give people a resource that they can refer to and actually make sense, like you said, of the world around them.
For sure. So for this podcast, I'm curious if we can get into that story, because I find it pretty fascinating, your approach and what you noticed just with social media and organic reach. So can you touch a little bit about that experience?
Great stuff. So with organic reach, social media works as it works with algorithms, and they're constantly tipping the algorithms in their favor. So the companies that own the algorithms, they want to make sure they still increase the engagement within the marketplace. They still increase the consistency of people actually posting content, because places like Meta, Instagram, and LinkedIn are the highest content producers, but they don't produce any content of their own. So they need to constantly be the place where their users go to in search of that content. Now, the internet is actually driven by community. It's driven by conversations and that content. So in order for them to facilitate all of those things, it's imperative for them to constantly have their algorithms checked and tweaked, which then makes it super hard for people to set and forget. Maybe you've got a Facebook page or an Instagram page. You need to constantly be monitoring, are you still reaching your audience, especially organically? And the only way you can simply do that is make use of the social medias, not as a place for you to gain fame and notoriety. You're not Kim Kardashian, but as a place to siphon those customers that you want back to your own website. Now, that's the only way that you can actually get the most out of using social media platforms, because people are just walking around. I like to call them internet explorers. They're just exploring what the next place to go to is. And if it just so happens to be either your website or your lead magnet, or maybe your podcast or whatever content that you've created for them, then take them off of the social media platform and bring them back home, where you can then nurture them and hopefully turn them into clients that pay, stay, and refer.
Perfect. I love that. And can we talk a little bit about, let's say, the power of like email listing and just not relying so much on these other platforms? Because, like, we don't own it. So what do you have to say for that?
Absolutely. I'm not quite sure if I've mentioned this to you, but I'm actually not on 2 of the major social media platforms, namely Facebook or Meta. So you see, that's how far I left the platforms, Meta and LinkedIn. The reason why was just predicated on the fact that if you rely solely on social media, they might actually just change the script on you and you're left with nothing. All right. A lot of us rely on just going onto social media and hopefully have groups that are already formulated, hopefully have markets that are already there without us actually putting in any input in creating those markets. And if somebody who has created their own group per se decides to take you out of that group, you no longer have access to those people. Whereas if you would have gotten into those groups, given value, and in exchange of that value, gotten people's email addresses, you now have created a stable place where you can actually market yourself in a way that nobody can take that vital asset that you would have created in your own email list. So this is what I urge a lot of people to actually venture into doing, which is basically siphoning the traffic, people, and engagement that they're getting on these social media platforms and actually bringing it back home. Because if you don't do that, if the algorithm changes, or if the if maybe you're taken out or somehow forget a password and you have to prove your own identity, you actually don't have access to that information at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I find it such a fascinating story, and it goes against the grain a little bit about what you hear so much from digital marketing consultants of like, oh, you have to like show up in these places where your people are, but you kind of went against that norm, maybe not intentionally, but it obviously seems to be working for you. So despite, you have the podcast, is that your main way for you to attract business for your marketing company?
Fantastic. So the podcast just so happens to be yet another arm that we utilize in order for us to generate leads. Okay. I engage myself in guest podcasting like I'm doing right now, where I, interact with other audiences, and hopefully if people, within your audience get to hear my message and they like what I'm saying, then they can get to know me, like me, and maybe eventually want to be a part of what I'm doing. We also use YouTube, not as a vanity metric, which is basically saying how many views did you get, no, but as a way to actually pass on information and educate our audience. All right, because I viscerally believe you get paid in direct proportion to the value that you bring to the marketplace. And I could ask you right now, Shelby, if you maybe get introduced to a music artist, wouldn't you start looking for other songs that they have played before, and just to see if that one wasn't just a one-hit wonder? And then before you know it, you're now in the first album they did while they were in their bedroom, and you're like, oh my God, I so get this artist. So that's the sort of mindset that I want to create, you know what I mean, where there's been people that are famous on social media, don't get me wrong, but it's now too much of a saturated platform that no matter what you're going to be doing, the content monster, which so happens to be the algorithms, is just going to keep wanting more. And I don't think we've got the energy, the money, and the effort to keep producing content that puts us in the mainstream. Instead, you just want to be enough to the right kind of person who has the right kind of pain that you can actually help. And some people don't quite realize that most of these small to medium businesses, especially if you're a coach or consultant, you only need maybe 5, at most 10 really good, well-paying clients that are paying you consistently, and you are doing the work for them, and you can actually live comfortably, with that little amount of, stress, I'll call it, that comes your way. So a lot of us want to be out there, be seen and everything else. I think that's just the ego, which is yearning to be heard. But if you really find your tribe, your kind of people, you can not exactly get market share, but you get wallet share, which basically means you're, getting the small group of customers buying more often from you, which makes it super easy.
Wow, I love that. I'm gonna have to listen back to this because it's so good and it's so true. Like when you actually think about it, just the idea of you see these huge influencers and these huge brands online, and you can't really compete with that, and you'd make yourself crazy trying to. So I love the approach of even you just saying, like you look back at the people that made it in the garage, or you start from nothing. Can you talk a little bit about that experience? Like, do you think there's that importance of showcasing like the beginning and just showcasing maybe being the underdog or really coming from not much?
I'll tell you something, your life story
Mm.
and your experience have so much value for somebody who's going to go through what you're going through at this particular time. So if you would notice, if you're going through stuff right now, somebody has written a book about it, somebody has podcasted about it, so that you don't have to go through what they went through. Most of the problems that we have solutions already. I think it was who was that guy who did 10,000 attempts to create the light bulb? Okay. Yeah, but you get what I mean,
Yeah.
right? So we don't, Thomas Edison. Thomas
Okay.
Edison tried 10,000 times to create the light bulb. Right now, it's just a flick of a switch for us, all right? So when you actually follow through what somebody has been through, the trials and tribulations that they have experienced, you then don't have to make the mistakes that they have, because you don't have 10,000 hours to get it figured out. I don't have 10,000 hours to get it figured out. So somebody was going through something and they documented that process, and we just get to learn from them. So it is imperative that because they say success leaves clues. So if you really want to create an impact, because when people meet you, they meet you at the surface, but when they really want to get to know, like, and trust you, they're going to look you up in places where you never expect. So it is very if you really want to engage and connect with people just want to see where it started. Just like you asked me right from the start of this podcast, tell us how you got started. All right, so people want to know that journey. People want to know the reason why, and when they figure out your why, they will bid a path to your doorway. Why? Because now they have a reason to buy into anything that you're putting out there, because they've seen the work, they've seen the 10,000 hours.
It's so true. And I love that perspective, because we don't have that time. And like you said, because I find some people, even myself included, I have a hard time, maybe like that trust factor where it's like, well, I don't know. Or it's like, I don't question the light bulb because I know it's there, and it's like, I just get to use it. And it's like, that's such a prime example of someone else's work that we get to enjoy and make it so much, like, make our lives so much easier to use it. So I love that. And you did mention a little bit about the why, and I always like asking, you kind of brought it up earlier, but can you tell us a little bit more about your why with your business?
Fantastic. So like I mentioned to you, I was brought up in Zimbabwe, and I'm really passionate about helping coaches and consultants, just simply because I know what it's like to start from nothing. Okay. When I was in Zimbabwe, I don't know if you know the history or the situation of the country, where we had the biggest inflation. Don't worry, it's coming. Where money is losing value by the day. And I can hear it's coming in the first world now. So to give you an example, you would need a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread. Okay, so we didn't even have any role models or people to look up to, or just any hope that things were ever going to get better. But my life changed when I was 13. An exchange student from Australia came and was working at my school. So you would understand there's people called Peace Corps, or people that just go in and volunteer as a teacher and things like that. Now, she influenced me in a way that I had never imagined. Okay, you can imagine she's a young woman and she's teaching mathematics. First of all, it's the hardest subject, and she has traveled across from wherever she came from, and she's brave enough to come and teach in the village. So that really inspired me so much, and it made me want to study a whole lot. And I would go in after school, help her figure out, our village, and then she would, in exchange with that, she would give us souvenirs from Australia. And one of the things that she imparted on us was the value of pen pals and just communicating with other people from overseas. And that then put in the seed for me to, want to do the same, go around and enjoy my talent with people. So my why now is the work that I'm doing, the people that I'm meeting. I really want to create that idea that you too can do and have a happier existence, because I also had somebody unknowingly do that for me. So by putting out podcasts, by me showing up, on the internet, by me being of value to other business people out there, I'm also becoming that anchor, or that sort of idea that, yes, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, you can literally do your part to change the little corner of the world that you live in. So it's just how I'm going to be living my life.
Yeah. And you can tell the passion in you mean it so much. And I just love that, because it is so true. And I feel like, going back to the whole ego thing, we think, oh, no one's hearing us, we need to be bigger and louder, where it's like, if we can change that little corner, then we're doing our part. And you don't even know how big of an influence or impact it's going to have. Just like you with that woman, you didn't even know. And I'm sure she didn't really know exactly really how it was going to affect anybody. And, look at where you are today. Like, I think that's so incredible. So now
I did something for her that she would never forget. So when I arrived in Australia, I looked for her, and eventually that whole process sort of caught the eyes of the media, and we got the whole process televised. So I actually met her in person, and I got to thank her, and the whole scenario was televised. So now she's got a lifelong souvenir that not only did she enjoy, but even her parents, even everybody else who was around her at that time. So I just want to be that one person who will show up, even if they just write me a letter and say, hey, because of you, I did not give up.
Wow, that's so powerful. You might have to send me the link if I can watch that. I totally will. That's so
Absolutely.
good. That's so good. So now, just with your business and your work, what are some of your next goals? Like, where do you see yourself, let's say, a year from now?
Right. So with the last couple of years that have been, that we've experienced, I'm in Melbourne, where we got shut down for almost 287 days, and that's almost a year. Now I want to really help people, and also within my business, create diverse recurring revenue streams that will actually create profitability. That means the business remains 100% bulletproof, even if there's a market downturn, even if there's global pandemics, even if there's sweeping lockdowns. All right, that's the next frontier now. And I'm doing that using rock solid content on the podcast that feeds into our email marketing, that feeds into, our academy and all the other things that we have. So all those diverse income streams need to be created, and each and every one of them needs to be a standalone, that where somebody says they want their whole business to be a six-figure, I want one channel to be a six-figure channel.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. So for people listening that really resonate with your messages and want to learn more, where can they find you? And what's your podcast called?
My podcast is called the Online Prosperity Experience. Okay. And definitely just looking up my name, Prosper Taruvinga, would lead you to either our website, which is livelongdigital.com.au, or just jump on to the Online Prosperity Experience. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. I've started putting the episodes on YouTube there, because we're an SEO company. So we basically know and understand that YouTube is the second biggest search engine. So if we're not going to be found there, then we're missing out on opportunities. So it's the Online Prosperity Experience.
Awesome. I always like to finish my interviews with one final last piece of advice or words that you would like to leave us listeners thinking about. What would it be?
Oh, you see, there's so much that is happening in life, but I believe we're here to live, we're here to learn, and we're here to contribute. All right. So if you're going to be going through your whole life, live your life to the fullest, because you only have that one life. Okay. And learn all you can in order for you to maximize that life. Because if you don't have certain information, the quality of your life is not going to be the best. And then once you have, arrived and you have learned all you have learned, send the elevator back down so you can contribute, just so one other person would also have a happier existence. So those are the three mantras that I live by. Learn as much as you can, and then contribute, just so that others can have a happier existence.
Wow, that's perfect. I love that so much. And I appreciate you spending some time with us to share some of your wisdom and your story. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you making the opportunity, Shelby, and keep fighting the good fight, because every time you're creating content like this, you are actually helping other people be doing have a happier existence. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.